So let me start out. This is Chris Klaassen. He's generous enough to spend some time with us today and tell us a little bit about his company. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you. What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a custom home builder and remodeler in Chilliwack, BC, or a smaller town about an hour and a half outside of Vancouver. And so we do primarily luxury custom homes with some large scale renovations. Our smallest projects are typically $250,000 and up, and then up into multi-million dollar custom homes.
Oh, wow. So you've got a good range. How long have you been an entrepreneur?
Been an entrepreneur since 2003, so that's going on 21 years now, I guess.
Okay. So you've made a lifetime of this.
I've pretty much made a lifetime of this. Yep.
So, and a little bit about your business. You've got a pretty broad range there in your pricing. Can you tell me a little bit about how your gross margins and your net profit margins work out?
Yeah, for sure. So we're typically, because of our larger size projects, our margins are around the 20-21% range on a gross margin range. We keep our overhead pretty tight. And so we're typically around the 9% for operating costs. So leaves us with roughly 11% net profit at the end of the day.
If there was one thing you had to do differently when you started out, what would that be?
Know your numbers. Biggest mistake I made when I started out is I didn't know my numbers. I had no idea what my hourly costs were. I had no idea what my operating costs were. And so I was pricing projects based on what I had kind of perceived from the industry and what the odd friend told me I should be at. And it took me a few years to realize I was losing money, and wasn't, this was not a profitable business. I mean,
Right, the slow bleed, right.
Yeah. So know your
But
numbers.
which part of those numbers do you think are the most important? You mentioned the overhead, you mentioned the hourly rates. Where do you think the biggest bleed was coming from?
In my case, the biggest bleed was coming on my hourly rates. I didn't understand my loaded hourly rate. What is the gas in the work van costing you per hour per staff member? What is the cell phone? What are the small tools and everybody gets the safety and the vacation pay and that stuff. That's easy to calculate, but everybody forgets about all the other stuff that has to get paid for the second your staff go out to a site, right, and do something. And then even the unpaid time, like if you're paying them for 3 hours a week to drive around non-billable time, well, that has to be, averaged out over the rest of your hours so that there's an hourly cost to that, right? So,
Right.
so yeah, that was the primary one. I mean, there was other ones too, but I would say that the single one that made a difference to the profitability of our company was making sure I was charging out enough to cover the cost, cover my operating cost, and make a small profit.
You understood those numbers. Did that change the way you approached your negotiations and your discussions with your clients? Did that help you at all?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a very logical person. So once I had a spreadsheet that said, I think at that time my full hourly cost was around $55 an hour. And that was before overhead and profit. That was just my cost of goods rate for a carpenter or labor. Once I knew that, then it was just very easy for me to go, no, this is the bottom line. Like, we can't go below this. I mean, I'm using industry averages for production, so I know that it's going to take X number of hours to get this done. This is my minimum. This is break even for me. And so, my bill out rate, I'm making a 10% net margin on my bill out rate. Like if that's not fair, then I guess I got to find another business. And
Now you've scaled up over the years.
for sure.
What was the secret to that scaling?
Well, the secret ultimately was about 8 years ago, I joined the Allaire Homes Group. And so that was really, Allaire Homes is a franchise of custom home builders and renovators across North America. And so what that provided for me was really systems and processes that allowed me to scale. The getting to a certain level, a couple million a year is doable. Just, you can do that out of your truck probably. And it won't necessarily be great, but it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a point you reach where you just can't keep up anymore. There's too many things falling off the wagon, and you're not keeping up on your billing. You're not keeping up on your estimating. You're not keeping up on your job costing and all those kinds of things. Schedules and all the client side of it's not being delivered at a rate it should be. And so you have to have a system or process to follow. Your staff need that. They can't be calling you every day about what do I do next. Like they need to know A, B, C, D, E. Like that's super critical. You're never going to scale if you're the roadblock. for every decision that has to get made in your company, right? So that was huge. Joining them and using and having a really proven system that works. I'm frankly small in the Alair world. There's companies in the Alair that are 5, 6 times my size, and they're doing fine. The system is very scalable, right? So yeah.
So you say it's very scalable, and you joined Alair, you got the systems. What impact did that have on your time in the office? You're right. You can do the 1 to 2 million out of the back of the pickup truck. We all know how time consuming that is, but how do you scale and maintain your schedule?
Yeah. So the difference with having systems is you're no longer having to get in and do everything. These things, they somewhat automate, right? In our case, our project managers can update schedules and approve invoices, and all that stuff gets done automatically. My jobs are just running along, and I can spend an hour a week with my PM on site and just get a snapshot and touch base with my client. But really, that's what it takes to run a site, is an hour. I spend less than a day a week on site related stuff, and that's not even technical site related stuff. That's just meeting with my PMs and helping them problem solve and getting a bit of an update and that kind of stuff, and even mentoring them just on their week ahead and challenges they're facing and that kind of stuff. But you're not busy, haranguing the electrician to go get that rough in done on time. Like, that's all happening because everybody on the team knows how to make that happen and has an accountability structure so that it happens regularly. So it's freed my time up significantly, right? I mean, I would say I put in half the time today and than I could before. So, I can run this easily on 2-3 days a week. And the bulk of that time is actually on business development and new stuff, growth, those kind of things. And then a part of it is just giving back to the industry, being able to, be part of boards and committees and things that hopefully help the industry improve and other builders improve. So
systems and scaling improved your life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm not a systems guy. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you had to get me to build systems, they're never going to happen, right? Like, I'm a shoot from the hip type of, that's who I am. And I do it fairly well. But again, I'm one person. There's only so much that I can do. So you need to have systems if you're going to do I would say you need to have systems. I don't care what your size is, because it's just going to make your life a lot better. But especially if you're going to scale, they're critical.
I totally agree, and I appreciate that. And Chris, I appreciate your time today. Real quick, if you had to do a 60-second master class to help other builders out there, what would you say? What advice would you give the younger guys or the guys that are, midway through their career in the industry and feel stuck?
Yeah, I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was starting to meet with a coach. A consultant or a coach. And I would say a coach, because a coach is going to, here's my definition of a coach and a consultant. The consultant does things for you and tells you what to do, and a coach asks great questions and helps you figure out what you want to do. So there's a difference there. And some people cross that line and do a bit of both. But that, a lot of times our struggles are our own perceptions and worldview and mindsets, and having someone else, and it doesn't have to be a paid coach. It can be a local business person that you look up to and you've seen them be successful. It can be a friend that has had some success. But you find someone who can challenge your mindset and help you think bigger than that. And then, make sure when you're setting up your business that you understand business fundamentals. Like, do you understand what it costs you? Those kinds of things, because there's nothing worse than losing money for 2 or 3 years. You don't have to. You can come out of the gate making money, right? So.
Right. Yeah. There's that whole phrase that, well, this is a cost of doing business.
Yeah.
As ridiculous. If it's a magical money pot out there that produces that money.
It's absolutely
the clients have to pay for everything. There is no magic pot.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, that whole mindset is just insane. Like, if you do something badly at a small scale, you're just going to do it badly at a big scale. Like, right. So now, are you going to maybe not have a full pipeline the first year or two of your business? Probably, right? Like, but on a job by job basis, are you profitable when you're working? That's where you start. And then, it might take you a year or two to build a pipeline in that's consistent. Absolutely. But start with the fundamentals, right? And if you don't know how to do that, find someone who can help you get there, because you won't survive otherwise.
That's great advice. It's great advice, and I appreciate that. So, Chris, thank you for your time today. I do really appreciate this. I hope other builders get value out of this because that's the goal.
Absolutely.
We've all got to be successful together.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dwayne. It's great catching up.
Okay, good catching up with you.
You bet. Take care.